Welcome back to the deep dive. If you're here, you're looking for efficiency. You want that crucial knowledge, you want it fast, thorough, and without wading through tons of extra stuff.
Hmm.
Today, we're doing something really tactical. We're diving deep, not into, heavy theory, but into the actual nuts and bolts of conversational English.
That's right. If you're looking for that quick path to sounding, well, more natural and maybe a bit more sophisticated in English, this is for you. Our mission today is to take four really common high-frequency phrases. These are like the structural tools you use every day, and really unpack how flexible they are across work, life, getting things done.
Yeah, and these aren't just like vocabulary list words, are they?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Think of them more as linguistic shortcuts. They're frameworks for requesting things, asking questions, just surviving daily interactions, making contact. Using them well can immediately elevate your communication.
Okay, so we're going deep on four pillars, basically. Making contact,
Right.
managing resources, or maybe just having enough resources. Getting by. Handling time and logistics.
Crucial.
And finally, how to ask for things without, sounding demanding, getting that social grace right.
Exactly. A politeness factor.
All right, let's jump right in. No time to waste. First up, the challenge of actually connecting with people. Okay, let's unpack this first one. Reach someone. It sounds, well, pretty basic, doesn't it? Like a simple action verb.
It does.
But it carries so much more weight depending on the situation. It's really about crossing some kind of gap, right?
Exactly. That gap could be physical distance, sure, but it could also be a technical hurdle, like a bad phone line, or even a conceptual gap, like someone just not understanding you.
A communication chameleon. I like that.
Yeah. And what's really interesting, I think, is that reach is very focused on the outcome. Did the connection happen or not? It's less about just making the attempt and more about the result.
Okay, so succeeding or failing to connect.
Precisely. And let's start where most of us probably use it most often these days. Digital and telephonic contact. Emails, phones, Zoom calls, all that.
Right, the digital noise.
And here, it really highlights the success, or often the failure, of trying to get through electronically.
I feel like I use it most often when it doesn't work. Sorry, I couldn't reach the manager. Why is that better than just saying I couldn't call them?
That's a great point. Because I couldn't call them might imply your phone was broken or you didn't have the number.
Okay, yeah.
But when you say, I couldn't reach the manager, their phone kept going straight to voicemail, you're painting a much clearer picture.
How so?
Well, you're saying, I tried, the system worked, but the recipient was unavailable. The voicemail, the busy signal, maybe the network dropped. That was the barrier. You're pinpointing the failure point in the connection itself.
Got it. So the failure wasn't in my trying, it was in the environment or the infrastructure blocking the connection. That's actually really useful, especially at work, if you need to show you made the effort.
Absolutely critical. It documents the attempt and the external reason for failure. Now, flip that. What about successful communication? If you're talking about emails or maybe scheduling something, using reach implies more than just, the message arriving.
Right.
Think about asking, did you manage to reach our contact at the supplier with the updated figures?
Okay, I wouldn't just mean, did the email send?
Exactly. You're implicitly asking, did you get through? And did they, acknowledge it?
Yeah.
Did they respond? Was the information successfully transferred and received?
So reaching them successfully means they've actually engaged with the information. It's not just delivered, it's absorbed, maybe confirmed. It needs that two-way element.
Precisely. If you've reached them, you've cut through the noise, you've established that channel. Now, quick side note here, the variation, reach out.
Oh yeah, people say that all the time.
Right. We often use reach out when we're talking more about the attempt, the effort we're going to make. I'll reach out to Sarah tomorrow, means I'm going to try.
Okay.
Whereas I need to reach Sarah urgently puts the focus squarely on the necessity of a successful connection.
Yeah, that's a subtle but really important difference. Process versus result. Okay, let's shift gears back to the more literal meaning. Physical accessibility and distance.
Yes, the original spatial sense. Getting to a person or a place.
And here it's not just about how far away something is it?
Not at all. It's about the barriers. When someone says, it's difficult to reach me at the office after 6 p.m. because the security doors are locked, the focus is on the effort needed to overcome that physical obstacle. Access is the key.
And asking if somewhere is difficult to reach often connects to planning, right? Like budgeting time or effort, which ties into another phrase we'll cover later.
Definitely. When we talk about reaching a physical place, the word inherently brings up potential barriers. Is it remote? Are the roads bad?
Mhm.
Is there a gate, like in the example? All these things contribute to the difficulty of reaching it. It's sort of an effort versus reward calculation.
You also mentioned using it for objects. That sounds a bit different.
Yeah, it's a kind of metaphorical extension. You might say, that ladder doesn't reach the third floor window.
Okay, meaning it's too short.
Right. Or, that key reaches the lock, but the door is stuck. The key's length or design allows it to physically make contact, but another barrier prevents the desired outcome.
So the object has the potential to connect or traverse the distance, but something else might be stopping it.
Exactly. It reinforces that core idea.
Right.
Reach is about the potential for connection across some kind of gap.
Okay, this is where you said it gets really interesting. Conceptual or emotional impact. Moving beyond physical stuff entirely.
Mhm. This is the really nuanced usage. It shows a deeper grasp of how these structures work. We're talking about non-physical gaps now.
So like if I'm trying to persuade someone and they're just not getting it, I haven't reached them. The gap is in understanding or maybe empathy.
Precisely. You haven't bridged that conceptual or emotional gap. When we use reach this way, we're talking about connecting with someone's understanding, their beliefs, their feelings. The goal is maybe to change their mind, or get them to see your point of view, or simply feel something.
Can we go back to that professional example? A presentation that just doesn't land.
Sure. Let's say his presentation failed to truly reach the board members with its core message. What does that imply?
Well, maybe the slides looked good, he spoke clearly, but something was missing.
Exactly. It suggests that even if the delivery was technically fine, the message lacked relevance for them. Or maybe it didn't connect emotionally, or it just didn't fit into how they see the world.
So the speaker failed to bridge the gap between their idea and the audience's, I don't know, willingness or ability to accept it. It's like an intellectual or emotional mismatch.
That's a great way to put it. A mismatch, a disconnect. So really mastering reach someone means first identifying what kind of gap you're dealing with, digital, physical, conceptual, and then, maybe adjusting your strategy.
And being able to use the word reach to describe the success or failure gives you a really concise way to explain what happened.
Absolutely. It provides instant, nuanced insight into the communication breakdown or success.
Okay, that actually leads perfectly into our second phrase, because sometimes you can't reach someone or you can't get the resources you need and you just have to get by. This one feels very different. It's all about necessity, right? Not aiming high, just surviving, coping, functioning at the bare minimum.
It really is the language of constraint. When you use get by, you're signaling basically two things. You're being resilient, yes, but your capacity is limited. You've got enough, but only just enough.
Sufficiency, not mastery or abundance.
Exactly. And the most immediate kind of gut level meaning is financial and material survival.
Yeah, having just enough money, just enough food, just enough supplies to cover the basics, often under pressure.
Right. It's the phrase you hear when people are talking about living paycheck to paycheck. It implies that short-term focus, just making it through.
It does sound stressful, like an active struggle.
It often is. Think about budgeting discussions. If we cut out all the extras, coffees, eating out, we can just get by until the next paycheck.
The phrase itself acknowledges you're having to actively manage things, probably cut back on stuff you want.
Precisely. It often implies some level of deprivation. Now, contrast that quickly with, say, scrape by.
Oh, that sounds even worse.
It does. Scrape by suggests you're even closer to the edge, like failure is a real possibility any second. Get by feels a little more stable, maybe uncomfortable, but you're managing to survive.
Okay, that's a useful distinction. Discomfort versus active pain.
Yeah. And it applies to material stuff too, not just money. Imagine you're cooking and running low on things.
Right.
We only have 3 ingredients left, but we can get by for dinner tonight if we use, crackers instead of breadcrumbs.
Okay, so it shows resourcefulness in that context. Making do.
Yeah.
Maintaining the basic function dinner, even if the quality isn't ideal.
It's an exercise in necessity, making things work with limited means.
Okay, let's move from physical resources to skills. This feels really important for language learners. Linguistic and skill competence, using get by for language ability.
Oh, absolutely crucial. And here, the phrase can actually be quite empowering
Oh, so.
because it draws a really clear line between fluency and just basic function. Fluency means you handle nuance, idioms, complex sentences. But getting by, that means you have the absolute essential phrases and structures you need for, say, transactional communication.
Like ordering food, asking for directions, checking into a hotel, the survival stuff.
Exactly. So if you say, I don't speak much Italian, but I know enough to get by in Rome, you're doing something really useful.
What's that?
You're managing expectations. You're telling people, look, I can handle the basics, I can function, but please don't expect a deep philosophical discussion. Be patient if I make mistakes or don't have the right word.
Ah, okay. That takes the pressure off, both for the speaker and the listener. You set a reasonable standard.
Huge psychological benefit. But now,
Huh?
we need to talk about the pivot.
Yeah.
The point where get by can suddenly become, well, negative. Effort and standards.
Right. This is where context totally flips the meaning.
Here's where it gets really interesting, yeah. Because in environments where the expectation isn't just survival, but excellence, think corporations, academia, high-performance teams.
Then getting by isn't good enough. If survival is the goal, getting by is a win. If excellence is the goal, getting by is kind of a failure. Or at least, not great.
Precisely. When you apply get by to performance in those contexts, it implies the minimum acceptable effort. And that's often seen as laziness or apathy or just not meeting potential.
Like a student who just does enough to pass.
Exactly. The classic example. He only reads the summaries. He just tries to get by in the class without doing the real work. The aim isn't understanding, it's just clearing the bar, passing the test, not mastering the subject.
And at work, if your boss says, the new hire's just getting by, that's not a compliment.
Absolutely not. It's a critique.
Yeah.
It suggests they're doing the bare minimum to not get fired, but they're not showing initiative, not adding value, not really engaged. It's judgmental in that context.
Wow, so you really have to be aware of the situation. Using get by about making ends meet financially shows resilience, maybe grit, but using it about performance in a demanding job suggests a lack of commitment.
Exactly. To really understand get by, you need to see that the phrase itself is neutral about the level of function achieved, the minimum, but it's loaded with judgment based on the gap between that minimum effort and what the environment expects or demands.
It's like a barometer for expectations. Resourcefulness in one context, dereliction in another.
Well put. It highlights how the same level of effort can be viewed completely differently depending on the arena.
Okay, moving from minimum resources to something that requires much more precision, planning. Our third phrase, how long does it take to get to? This one feels like the absolute foundation for logistics, doesn't it?
It really is. It's the bedrock of planning anything involving time and movement or progress. It's a structured question that demands clarity on two things. The duration, yes, but also the specific destination or endpoint.
Right, the get to part seems really important.
It's critical. The phrase is asking for a calculation of elapsed time needed to complete a journey or a process, ending at a defined point.
And the most obvious use is for travel, right? Physical distance and travel time.
That's the direct quantitative use, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the key thing here is that the answer is almost never just a simple number, like 50 kilometers.
Because the time it takes depends on so many other things.
Exactly. Traffic, the time of day, how you're traveling, driving, train,
Yeah.
walking, even the weather. These variables are crucial. So just asking how long is the trip isn't usually enough for practical planning.
Because that might just give you the distance, not the actual time investment.
Right. The time it takes is the number you need. Think about planning a commute. How long does it take to get to the city center during rush hour versus asking the same question about midday on a Sunday?
You're going to get two very different answers. You need that comparison based on those external factors like traffic.
Precisely. You're asking for comparative time estimation based on known variables. Or think about international travel. You know how long the flight is? That's usually fixed. But the real uncertainty, the part you need to plan for, is often what happens after you land.
Right. Getting from the airport to the hotel, that can be unpredictable.
Exactly. So you'd ask, once the plane lands, how long does it take to get to the hotel downtown? You're focusing on that final leg, the part with high variability customs, baggage claim, finding a taxi, local traffic. That's the crucial time estimate you need.
Okay, that makes sense. But then we get to the more abstract uses, applying this structure to things that aren't physical journeys, duration of processes and milestones.
Yeah, and this is fascinating because we use the exact same grammatical structure, but the journey is metaphorical. The destination isn't a place, it's maybe a project phase or reaching a certain level of skill.
Ah, so the journey is the project timeline maybe, and the destination is hitting a key milestone.
You got it. The end point is conceptual, a benchmark. Think about project management. You might ask your team, How long does it take to get to the testing phase after the initial design is finalized?
Okay, you're asking for the estimated time for all the steps between design and testing, calculating internal process duration.
Right. Estimating the resources, the work hours needed to move from one defined state to the next. And you can use this for personal goals too.
Like learning a skill.
Absolutely. For anyone learning something new, this structure is fantastic for gauging progress. You can ask yourself, or a mentor, how long does it take to get to a point where I feel comfortable presenting complex data to clients?
The journey is measured in practice hours, maybe not miles, but the structure works the same way. You need to invest time to reach that achievement.
It acknowledges that reaching that benchmark requires a period of effort and development.
Right.
Now, let's quickly touch on why that full structure is so robust, the necessary structure. How long does it take to get to X rather than something simpler?
Like just how long is X?
Right. If you just ask how long is X, depending on what X is, you might get a distance, how long is a road,
Yeah.
a physical length, how long is the table, or maybe just a vague time estimate, how long is the meeting. But including, does it take to get to? Forces the question to be about duration linked to achieving a specific target. It grounds the query. It specifies the destination or goal that marks the end point of the time you're asking about.
So it's not just measuring time in the abstract, it's measuring the time required for the effort to reach a particular goal.
Exactly. It frames it as an active process that requires time investment. That makes the answer immediately useful for practical planning, for scheduling, for managing logistics. It shifts focus from just reporting distance or time to enabling actual management.
That focus on structure and planning brings us nicely to our final phrase. And this one, arguably, is crucial for navigating, well, modern life, especially professional settings, with diplomacy. Would it be possible for someone to...
Yes. This is the peak of polite, tentative requesting.
It feels like it immediately lowers the temperature, doesn't it? Takes the pressure off the person you're asking.
It absolutely does. It's a fantastic social buffer. Let's break down why. You've got the conditional would that makes it hypothetical, not a demand. And then possible. That immediately brings in the idea of feasibility. Are there constraints? Is this actually doable? You're asking about the capacity for the action, not demanding the action itself.
You're asking if it can happen, not telling them to make it happen?
Precisely.
Mm-hmm.
And we often use the full structure, including the someone, when we're dealing with formal requests involving third parties.
Because the person you're asking may not be the person who actually does the thing. Delegation is involved.
Exactly. The inclusion of that indefinite someone, or maybe naming a specific third party like a colleague, is key. It frames the request less as a personal favor you're asking of them and more as a question about resource allocation or logistics that they might manage.
So you're addressing the person who has the authority, maybe, but not necessarily burdening them with the task itself.
Right. Consider asking a manager, would it be possible for a colleague to attend the training session in my place?
Okay, you're not just saying, I can't come, can someone else go?
No. You're politely asking the manager to assess the feasibility. Can someone else be spared? Is it allowed by policy? It's much softer, much more respectful of their role in managing the team or the process.
Now, let me push back slightly here. Is there a danger, maybe, if you use this all the time for really simple things? Does it start to sound, I don't know, a bit weak or overly apologetic, especially if things need to happen quickly?
That's a really important question. And yes, absolutely. It's about balance and context.
Oh.
If you use this elaborate structure for everything, like, would it be possible for you to pass the salt? Yeah, that's going to sound strange, maybe overly deferential.
Okay.
Its real power comes into play for requests that are potentially disruptive or that involve complex systems or where you anticipate there might be genuine obstacles. And that leads us nicely into asking about system feasibility.
Right, applying it to non-human factors, technical limits, policies.
Correct. Here, the actor isn't really a person, it's the system, the software, the established procedure. You use the phrase to probe those limits.
Like asking IT. Would it be possible for the software to automatically generate these reports each month?
Perfect example. You're not asking the IT person to personally generate them. You're asking if the system's current capability allows for automation.
And if the answer is no,
Then the explanation can focus on the system's limitations. Sorry, the current version doesn't have that feature. Rather than sounding like a personal refusal. It keeps the interaction smooth, professional, less confrontational.
that's very useful. Okay, and finally, the very common shortened version. Polite personal inquiries, where you replace someone with you Or, more often, me.
hmm This is where we use that politeness structure for managing expectations and personal requests, especially to people in authority.
Like asking your boss, would it be possible for me to leave 30 minutes early tomorrow?
Exactly. What are you signaling when you phrase it that way?
Well, I'm acknowledging that this isn't the normal schedule, that my leaving early might cause some inconvenience or require adjustment. I'm not just announcing my departure.
Precisely. You're acknowledging the potential imposition right up front. You're inviting the manager to consider the feasibility from the team's or organization's perspective. It's a proposal, not a declaration.
And that probably makes them much more likely to say yes, or at least discuss it cooperatively.
Absolutely. The structure itself minimizes that feeling of imposition. Compare it to the bluntness of, I need to leave early tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds demanding.
This conditional structure shows respect for the other person's role and the constraints they might be working under. Mastering this really is mastering a kind of non-confrontational negotiation. It's about managing expectations smoothly in pretty much any setting.
Okay, so we've gone through 4 really fundamental structures. Reach someone, all about making that connection.
Across different kinds of gaps.
Get by defining that minimum level of function, for better or worse.
Right. Survival or sufficiency.
How long does it take to get to the key to planning time and logistics?
Calculating that duration to a specific endpoint.
And would it be possible for someone to... The art of the polite tentative request.
Managing feasibility and expectations.
So what's the big takeaway here? How do these fit together?
Well, if you step back and look at the bigger picture, the real power is that these phrases almost never operate in isolation in real life.
Ah, okay.
They're like the scaffolding that supports complex, real-time problem-solving conversations. They provide the connective tissue you need to navigate situations that involve constraints, time pressure, other people, potential barriers, all that messy stuff of daily life.
Can we walk through an example, maybe synthesize them in a scenario? Like imagine someone new in a job, maybe English isn't their first language, they're juggling a deadline low on resources.
Okay, perfect. So
Yeah.
this new hire feels the pressure. They know they're just getting by, maybe on the project budget, or perhaps with their current understanding of the new systems. They need to set up an important client meeting downtown.
Right, first hurdle.
First, logistics. They look up the client's address and immediately need that time calculation. How long does it take to get to the client's office from here, especially during rush hour? Maybe they also need to ask, how long does that type of meeting usually run?
Okay, planning the time needed.
Then they realize, oh, the timing is incredibly tight. Maybe they'll be late coming back for an internal deadline. They need to check in with their supervisor, but the supervisor isn't answering their calls or emails.
Ah, the connection problem.
Exactly. So they report back, maybe to a colleague, I've tried 3 times this morning, but I haven't been able to reach my supervisor yet.
Okay, so now they have multiple problems. Time pressure, maybe resource limits, and a key person they can't contact. They need to talk to the client now, carefully.
Precisely. They can't just cancel or demand a change. They need to manage the client's expectations diplomatically. So they use that perfect tentative structure.
The final phrase.
Right. Maybe they email or call the client. Would it be possible for us to perhaps hold the presentation online instead of meeting in person? Maybe sometime next Tuesday would work better.
That phrase handles everything. It acknowledges the change is a request, not a demand. It asks about the client's technical feasibility. Can we do this online? And their schedule, is Tuesday possible? All while subtly managing the fact that their own internal issues, like failing to reach the supervisor, are part of the reason for the request.
It's a masterful way to handle a tricky situation without causing friction.
And seeing how all 4 phrases can thread together like that in just one common scenario, it really shows why learning these structures is so much more powerful than just memorizing individual words like meeting or traffic or call.
Absolutely. They give you immediate fluency gains, especially for functional communication. Mastering these structures helps you move beyond that feeling of, translating word for word from your own language, which often sounds stilted. You start using the natural, high-frequency ways that native speakers constantly use to manage all these common challenges. Distance, time, limitations, politeness. It makes your English sound much more functional and nuanced. #have outro, host expert, final takeaway.
So a deep dive today into 4 phrases that look simple on the surface but are packed with meaning and function. Reach someone, get by, how long does it take to get to, and would it be possible for someone to?
Yeah, and remember, The real power here is structural, and it's relational. It's about how these phrases help you manage situations and interact with people.
The goal isn't just getting your basic meaning across.
No, it's about navigating those complex interpersonal dynamics, those logistical hurdles, smoothly, efficiently. And honestly, these four structures, they cover a huge percentage of the challenges you face in everyday transactional communication.
A fascinating look at the architecture of politeness and function in English.
Definitely. And maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If your main goal right now is just functional communication, just getting by in English, then these phrases are absolutely essential tools. Grab them, use them. But if your longer-term goal is mastery, maybe influence, think about this. How does really understanding the subtle effort involved when you try to reach someone, or appreciating the deep-seated politeness built in asking, would it be possible? How does that conscious understanding change the way you approach your own difficult conversations? Not just in English, but in any situation. How might you structure your requests or reports differently to maximize not just clarity, but actual cooperation? That's the deeper power hidden inside these seemingly simple structures.
Food for thought indeed. Thanks for that deep dive.
My pleasure.